Welcome to the J.R. Hendrick Texan Gentleman, the podcast that deals with the early life of yours truly. And now, Jim's Triumph, Part 1. December 19th, 1994, 12 p.m. At the ranch, Christine had packed up a bag and was ready to go to the airport through one of the ranch hands. Damn it. I don't know what's wrong with this family these days, Jim said. JR leaves Friday. You leave today. Your mama would rather sit there and play political power games downtown Midland, Jim said. Sometimes you and Mom can figure it out. Sometimes, Daddy, have to go to the airport, Christine said. With that, Christine throws her bag in the truck, a 1994 red Ford pickup. And they speed off to the airport. 1:30 p.m. In downtown Fort Worth, Brent meets with Frank Stone, editor-in-chief of the Fort Worth Times. Now listen, son. You getting this job has nothing to do with your father and his judicial record. It rather has something to do with your association with the Hendrick family. So, I got a story, you can cover it. We'll take you to the Hendrick mansion in Gainesville. In the American Christian Republic wants a video interview of Jim Hendrick. And I happen to know that you are an expert at digital research. Find out something about Jim Jr. or even the grandmother. 2 p.m. Somewhat happy, Betsy and her Blue Shield Society pro-lifers with a victory in federal court when they allowed a pro-life clinic to go 10 blocks from Planned Parenthood. Pulling in with his Freightliner 18-wheeler, John Dustin is blaring the Luther Vandross song, If Loving You Is Wrong. Betsy, hop in the truck, John said. You know how I feel about this. 2 p.m. Not 2 p.m. 2:30 p.m. Okay. John drops Betsy off at the ranch, and he gets out of the truck to talk to Jim. Sorry to keep your gal waiting. I just thought maybe I'd take Betsy and drop off a load, John said. I guess it could be pretty easy to see that you still care about my woman, Jim said. Well, I gotta go. I promised little Joni here I would get him a Big Mac. Don't start up a big fuss, Jim said, as John drove his truck out of the driveway. 3:05 p.m. JR is riding a limousine to DFW to pick up his sister. He and Jennifer are talking sweet with each other on the phone. JR said he wanted to marry her, and she said give it a little time. 5:20 p.m. Slowly, I walked on up the stairs and headed to my door. Suddenly, my cell phone rang. It was Charlie. I shouted, "Sure you got something better to do, Charlie?" "Mellow, Junior. Mellow. Mellow, Junior. Mellow," Charlie said. "Some connection I know from Blue Shield in San Antonio that knows my granny said that your mama and daddy are fighting over whether or not you should be my roommate," Charlie said. "So what?" "My father has more stocks than yours, and ones that we create. We had a talk with Dr. Harmon. He thinks the idea of us rooming together is great." "You're such a damn simpleton. Don't you know that running your mouth around campus ain't gonna endure yourself to me? Now I got to wash up and get ready for dinner. So if you're smart, until next semester, stay quiet and scram." 5:30 p.m. Sitting down in the living room with Christine, she and I talk. "I'm sorry to have to decide this, but my hand is forced. Next semester, just like at the school for the blind, I will be rooming back with Charlie," JR said. "Yeah, and Daddy said that summer Charlie wouldn't stop picking on you," Christine said. "Satisfy yourself with the fact that this is my choice," JR said. The mansion phone rang with a call from Uncle Tom. Apparently, Greg, Amy Kathleen's boyfriend, was coming close to asking Amy Kathleen the question. And Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals Justice William Clark had returned to Waxahachie to enjoy Christmas with his family. 7 p.m. Mountain. In El Paso, in the Swain family, there is having dinner with the Garrison family to celebrate what could be a powerful alliance. Greg talks about a recent ruling by Justice William Clark for gay rights. "We better not let Uncle Jim hear that. My concern is he's trying to raise a harsh political family," Amy Kathleen said. Kiddo, you don't know," Diana said. "Your dad said when Uncle Jim married Aunt Betsy, he said he would never be interested in politics." Return to Central Time Zone. 1 a.m. Walt Lipscomb is on CBNC talking about how he still likes and respects Richard Nixon, despite the fact of Watergate. Jim knows that Walt was one of the few conservative journalists who was willing to write this story about Watergate and expose it with truthfulness and not sensationalism, but sensibility. 2 a.m. Elizabeth wakes up with more abdominal pain. She reaches for her tonic and her medication before turning on Tennessee Ernie Ford. She's seething mad at Betsy because JR and Christine left out of anger at Jim Hendrick. 4 a.m. On CBNC, an anchor is talking about how Judge William Clark of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals joined the majority opinion blocking a gay rights appeal by the ACLU yesterday. Also, John Hurd, who graduated from Washington Lee University with a law degree from Harvard, was nominated for the Senate for Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Public Affairs. The slot they had been offered Jim. 5 a.m. Betsy rushes to the gate to greet the Swainfield truck to unload 2 bulls to put into a barn. In the kitchen, Sophie and Juan are making bacon and eggs, French toast, coffee, and apple juice. 5:30 a.m. In the kitchen, Betsy and Elizabeth talked about Elizabeth's last session of chemo for the year. Tomorrow morning, everybody would take a private jet to Dallas and then drive to Gainesville. 8 a.m. At breakfast, Jim asked Betsy to enjoy the day with him, but she wanted to get with John Dustin at the truck stop motel room to talk. Jim is upset. 10 a.m. In Fort Worth, Brent Clark meets with Walt Lipscomb to discuss the Hendrick matter. Walt says he has a hard time trusting whether Brent would be able to cover the Hendrick story. Brent idolizes Walt, but wonders whether he'd be able to cover the story objectively. 10:30 a.m. Walt, on the plane, Walt finds an article in the newspaper from 1975 when Jeremy Swain is seen with Marjorie Brent Clark, Brent's mother. Dumbfounded, Brent, he calls Brent, who changes his tune about Walt. 11 a.m. They are sitting in the sunroom when Christine comes and sits by Dara. Christine just comes and sits by me. "You okay?" she asked. Interesting times. JR puts down the book. "But Chris, I am rooming with Charlie, regardless of what Daddy says." Can you at least tell me what's going on between you two? Yeah. Hold on thing. Anyway, John Dustin is hanging around Mama like some kind of nut. Daddy ain't doing a thing about it. So why shouldn't I room with Charlie? Do you really like him that much? Yeah. Look, I didn't like what Daddy and Mama are doing. It's an awful game. I'm asking you after Christmas. If you want to walk away and hang out with Charlie, that's okay, just be careful. I don't think I have a choice. Dork, I think you do. Christine said, walking away. 12 p.m. At a motel at the Warfield truck stop, John Dustin asked Betsy why she went back to gym in the first place. How can you ask me that? Betsy asked angrily. But we're gonna really be together? You have your world, and I have mine. And I wanted Kyle in mine, not chasing throughout the whole country with his father. Betsy sits down by him. Actually, he's a lot like you, in many ways. Let me take you to lunch. Not today, John. I'll take you to lunch in Dallas tomorrow. We'll catch up on things. 1 p.m. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Walt shows up to interview Jim. Jim tells him about some papers that his father-in-law had about his political career in the moonshine cellar in the basement of the ranch. Knock yourself out. Hope you'll find some decent political stuff that explains what I do, Jim said. But meanwhile, an hour behind in El Paso, Amy Kathleen gets a call from her future fiancé to have lunch. 2 p.m. In Gainesville, Christine jumps on me for listening to the Blake Carter Show on Daddy's radio. This is Daddy's office, Christine said. Family office. Daddy let me listen to the radio. Oh, I see. You don't want that oil. And you don't want the ranch, JR. But you want this mansion for your dorky life. She walks away, goes into the sunroom. Now, I hope you enjoy listening to the J.R. Hendrick Texan Night. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and become a part of this amazing adventure. This is JR here saying until next time, take care and remember the rest of the story. It's going to get a little bit bumpy from here.